Good evening.
Everywhere I go on this island, it seems to me I find degeneracy.
Watch a few movies, take a few notes. See, it's a lot scarier when there's no motifs in.
We have a bargain.
Watch a few movies, take a few notes.
Do you feel the pain? Oh, it's the pain, I can assure you, will be exquisite.
Watch a few movies, take a few notes.
His entire work consists of violence, all the time, obsessed with the issue of violence. Mayhem, gouging out of eyes, autopsies on the stage.
Come. It is time to keep your appointment.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to episode 142 of Double Feature Horror Show. I hope you enjoyed that intro that gets me copyright claimed every single time I play it. But you know what? I just love it. I just like it. It's staying. Even if I fight the copyright claim every single week. I hope you guys are doing well. Quite a few things to cover this stream. We are keeping it tight. So Catherine has expressed hope that things get better for the guy with the dog in that art museum. That would be our good friend, Mr. Vincent Price. For the sake of brevity, as our guests have some constraints today, we are not covering Vincent Price. We'll get back to him next week. But last episode, it was on the up and up for Vincent. It was looking good. He got a new wife. He got a daughter. He ran an Institute of Modern Art for a while, and he started finding his way. He started getting cooked up with a horror crowd. Next time we join him, we're going to be looking at him in the 60s, which is some of his most formative era, working with one Roger Corman. So we'll get into that next time. This time we're keeping it brief. But I mentioned wonderful guests who have tight time schedules. Let's just introduce them, keeping it nice and brief and efficient for you chat. So bringing everyone in, let's lead with, if you want to introduce yourself, yes, good to see you. Welcome back.
Good to see you too. Glad to be back. I am glad that I was able to pinch hit on short notice. I am thrilled to be here for Christine. I reached out to Chloe and asked if she wanted me for this stream because it's one of my favorite John Carpenter movies, but she said no. But then TCG, something came up and I got to fill the spot. So I am pleased as punch about that. Also, since I have a new Thursday night stream series, which starts at about 2 hours, I'm actually in my husband's old gaming room. This is my cam studio, and I just left all the bric-a-brac and collectibles and stuff in here because I think it's a nice backdrop. So I am here on camera tonight because I will be on cam for my Empire of Lies stream series, which all of you would enjoy. I highly recommend you check it out after this stream series each week on Thursday evening on my channels. You can find me, Yiz the Eunuch, at Rumble, YouTube, and of course, Odyssey. All right.
Oh, smooth. Very good. Very nice. And Murgy, good to see you.
Good to see you. And you can find me at Murgoot on Twitter or X. I do a little bit of everything, memes, science posting, a lot of back and forth on American politics.
And you can see Murgoot every single time we cover an anthology on here. He tries to get out and I drag him back in mercilessly. Like, no, please give me
back in.
Please, Chloe, no. Just give me something with a first act, a second act, and a third, please. No worries, no worries. And also joining us, another welcome return. Also someone else who has had the pleasure of covering a David Lynch film on the stream. Yes, had the joy of Mulholland Drive. Harry joined us for Lost Highway. Good to see you, Harry.
Good evening, Chloe, and good evening, Yiz and Murgoot. We were saying hello before the stream started, but I want to reaffirm that it's lovely to meet you both. For anyone who doesn't know, just to get all of the promos out of the way, I work with Lotus Eaters, Carl Benjamin's business, where we do a daily podcast that you can find me on. I tend to appear 2 times a week. And we also have the website where you can sign up for £5 a month, get access to all of the beautiful premium videos and articles that we do on there. Now, there is a very important new project that will be coming out sometime within the next few months, which I've been working on for a very long time, which I think will be very, very worth it for anybody who does subscribe. But I'll keep that a bit under wraps. For stuff that I can talk about, mentioning David Lynch, Josh and I have recently wrapped up our discussion on my favourite piece of David Lynch media, possibly my favourite piece of media, fictional media ever, which is Twin Peaks. We've done a little video on that, which will be coming out once the editing is done. And for anybody wondering, yes, we did do the backwards talking. Yes, it is terrifying. Yes, it is slightly embarrassing. But what isn't? There's always a chance of embarrassing yourself whenever you venture out and try something new and exciting. If you ever want to achieve anything in life, you need to risk embarrassing yourself. So, gosh darn it, give that a watch when it comes out.
Oh, fantastic.
Speaking of David Lynch references, there is a Mulholland Drive connection and a Twin Peaks connection to Christine tonight, which I will be glad to talk about if you do not have that prepared already.
I missed that.
Well, for me, the David Lynch connection was Harry Dean Stanton's appearance, and he's appeared in quite a bit of Twin Peaks and other Lynch products. And I've got to say, I love Harry Dean Stanton.
Me too.
And whatever score I end up giving this film near the end, add a +1 immediately for Harry Dean Stanton's involvement in this. Like your what's your +1 multiplier? Who's the black guy from Candyman?
Tony Todd.
Tony Todd.
The Toddifier. +1 to anything he stars in, even Hatchet.
I don't even know what that is. But yes, Harry Dean Stanton is my Toddifier. And that's
before we get started, do you want me to tell you the other David Lynch reference since we're on it right now?
Oh, please.
The guy who played the bully with the big hair and the main bully in Christine.
Oh, where is he? Hang on, I've got him. I'll get him up.
Did you got a good screenshot of him? I don't remember his actor name off the top of my head. I don't know what that man's name is. But did you know he was the assistant director for Mulholland Drive?
He was the assistant. What? No, I didn't know that.
Look it up. Look it up.
What? Okay, yes, you've just completely validated your place here.
That's a very impressive and obscure reference.
And he is not the only actor in this movie who is a successful director. The guy who plays Arnie is a successful director, mostly in TV. He's directed episodes of, I think, X-Files, Dexter, House,
really, what's his name?
Walking Dead. I'm Keith something. Let me look it up.
Keith Gordon.
Keith Gordon, yeah. He is a very successful television director that has directed a lot of things on television, especially the good earlier stuff of Dexter. He directed Better Call Saul.
Directed some Better Call Saul. What?
He also directed. I don't remember if he directed any X-Files or not. I could be wrong about that. But I know he directed at least 1 or 2 episodes of House MD, which I really liked in the mid-aughts. He also directed. Hold on, let me look him up here. I know that he's directed some other stuff I would know.
In that case,
we've
got to activate the challenge.
Yeah, he's.
We have to
let me go to his IMDb.
Challenge.
Oh, he also directed several episodes of Fargo. If you guys like that TV show.
I only watched the first series of that.
I never saw any Fargo. It wasn't for me. I never got into that. But he was one of the directors of Walking Dead, that really popular zombie show everybody was huge about like 10 years ago. And
isn't that still going?
So the guy who played Arnie not only was a good actor, but also a very successful television director. So here we go.
And John Stockwell, who played Dennis, directed SEAL Team 6, The Hunt for Osama bin Laden.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's cool. That's cool.
Oh, goodness.
See,
one of my favorite things. Oh, sorry, Chloe, go ahead.
I was going to say, I just thought this guy was like the Pokemon evolution from John Travolta's bully in Carrie, but he's even better.
Yeah.
And Alexandra Paul, who played the love interest, is best known for being in Baywatch, of all things.
Are you sure about that? I might have to get a photo up. Let's see if we can verify that, chat. By the way, since we're on here, we might as well ask TNG challenge. And this is a game you can play, chat. Find us the connections to the next generation. Who starred in Star Trek The Next Generation? Because it's an 80s movie. We know it's going to be someone.
I believe it's Harry Dean Stanton.
Probably.
Almost.
Harry Dean Stanton's been in so many things. I don't know.
Oh no, that was James Cromwell.
I'm not a huge Star Trek nerd, so nothing comes to mind. But I'm sure there's some connection because everything in the 80s could be connected to TNG somehow.
Oh, exactly.
I've never been a Star Trek guy. Never really. My dad tried to get me into it when I was younger, and I always found it to be. This might annoy some people, hokey and somewhat embarrassing at points.
I think at this point, with your power level where it is, you would recoil from Star Trek the way a Reform Party moderator would recoil from a position of, consistency and openness.
Yes. If I had to describe the amount of seats, if I was watching Star Trek, it would be 0. 0 seats would be occupied.
0? I love my 0. Before we came, we had an early super chat in from Mr. GB, who's waking up about 6 a.m. to join us, which I really appreciate. That is dedication to this bizarre little stream of ours. And
good old Mr. Gently Benevolent. I've seen him for many, many years in all the chats. Good to see you, sir.
Deeply subversive individual, deeply subversive, saying, sorry to interrupt. I can't do this, man. Sorry to interrupt the chat, folks. I just like to draw attention to the aesthetic range of messages, which would look really good on a super chat. Well memed. Very well memed. Ah, good times, good times. Let's see. People have... We've got references that someone played a Ferengi. I need them named. I need name the Ferengi. Don't take that the wrong way, YouTube.
Supposed to name them on your stream.
Oh dear. Well, people have given their links. I think I was going to save this till a little bit later, but we'll get it out of the way now. I have a 4-point agenda for the stream. One of which was giving proof of a channel that actually delivers on a YouTube project. Oh my goodness, we've avoided the spoony curse here. So in my own chills, well, I've already had one thing coming out on the Lotus Eaters with Dan Brokenomics you heard about. I believe there is something coming out hopefully soon. I don't know when that next one is dropping, but either way, go and support Harry on the Lotus Eaters. They're doing good work, and you'll be able to see the stuff I do over there. You can support this
Stanley Kubrick series that we're in the middle of, which the first video should be coming out relatively soon. It's all edited and ready. I just don't know when it's out.
Oh, sweet. Okay, good to hear. So just sign up anyway and tell them you did it for Harry. So there's that. Also, if you want to support this channel, you can join as a member either here or on Subscribestar. That really helps. Super chats, super welcome. But I would especially say a really good thing to do is the memberships, because if you join as a member right now, you will always get access to the exclusive content, exclusive streams that we've done. But in this month right now, you will get access to the first half of the Blockbuster project, because that thing is done. It is out. For members, they've got the first 4 episodes and they've got the first 4 film commentaries, which off the top of my head are Fright Night, the original, Nightmare on Elm Street, The Shining, and Black Christmas, which was already out to members. A YouTube project actually delivered on. That is my long-promised project on Blockbuster, the rise, the fall, the cultural impact, and basically just trying to shut down the very Whig history myth that Netflix is what brought them down. And gosh darn it takes me 7 episodes to do it.
Yeah, I've seen the first several parts of the Blockbuster, Rise and Fall of Blockbuster, and it's very good.
Thank you very much.
Subscribe.
Much appreciated. Members
to watch now.
Go for it. I will release the first one. Because the first one's kind of a prologue, I'll give you that one tomorrow, everyone, and I'll give you the second part on Saturday. But members, you'll see all the first 4 parts, and I'll try and get the remaining 3 to you on the weekend. I had a little bit of copyright trouble because YouTube.
Of course.
Yes, waifu. I didn't repeat. I brought in a little, I just a little bit of gay, just a tiny bit of gay, but I decided if I talked about the gay reading for Fright Night the whole way through, that's like the whole film. So I literally, in the commentary, I play a fruity kazoo every time something happens.
I can't wait.
Just to avoid repeating myself. Just a little fruity kazoo. Anyway.
Does every Hollywood production have a gay reading? Is that just how gay Hollywood is?
When I've finished with them, it does. No, it's genuinely.
I was about to say, if it's up to proper horror show, yes.
it's genuinely in that one. It's genuinely in that one. Okay, right. We should probably move on. So, just in case people have not heard it. So, what are we doing here? We're doing 2 quick topic sections. Then we are getting into discussing Christine. But yeah, that's all the shilling done. We like a quick shill, and then we'll quickly discuss some things that came up. Because frankly, I know if you're on this stream, if you're on this panel, you obviously have been following the BBFC, the British Board of Film Classification, and exciting news happening in that world. Yeah, everyone seen this?
Totally up to date.
Way. All right. If that is leaving you confused and slightly frightened, as a bit of an ongoing joke, we did the whole history of the BBFC over about 7 parts, probably well over a year ago now. But we like to keep in touch, just seeing what's going on in Britain's leading censorship industry, especially when it proves me right, because that's what I like most. I like being proven right, folks. What are the BBFC doing? They're doing something weird. They're actually becoming a little more restrictive. That's unusual. What are they being restrictive on? Well, if you read this, or even better, go to their press release on their website. Here we go. You'll find out that they're very concerned about the levels of sex and violence in films, especially around the 12A rating. So they're tightening up on that. And you might think, oh, interesting. People have been saying that's been getting a bit wild for a while. My goodness. That seems really weird from an organization that recently raised the rating on Mary Poppins for being a bit too spicy.
May I predict the reason for this?
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Harry.
So in a better world, I would like to think that the BBFC had regained its conscience and realized, hold up, just as on principle, people under the age of 15 years old who aren't properly developed, who don't have any experience in this, who are very easily suggestible, should not be able to see explicit violence and nudity to the level that we allow right now. I would like to think that it would be to do with that, but I have a sneaking suspicion it may be more to do with the changing attitudes of the new demographics, which the BBFC is catering its films towards. Could that have something to do with it?
Brings new meaning to Letterbox Edition, huh, Chloe?
Boris Johnson appreciators all enjoying that one. Very nice. Yep. Very nice.
See, this is why you invite me on. I'm clever and fun.
Yeah, I like it. Well, what Harry's alluding to is that for years, actually, the BBFC held a policy specifically around Bollywood, where they were so extremely strict that you couldn't get a kiss in a Bollywood film without the rating going up into basically adult ratings, because the communities that watched that really had very restrictive standards that they, in the rest of the population, decide were absolutely impossible because, as they say, society has changed. So that could be a factor, but what they've snuck in, because we don't read the headlines. The headlines, that's not the story. No. The little bit in there with them, are they getting harsher on sex and violence? Well, maybe, but weirdly, they're also relaxing the attitudes to drugs and especially what's the phrase? Inhalable drugs, because society's attitudes have changed. Interesting.
The wacky backy.
Did you know, after constantly propagandizing people that weed's cool, bro, it's all fine, and your best pop stars having that in all their music.
It's basically good for you.
It turns out people don't find it as bad, and so therefore the BBFC has decided that they're going to reduce the rating, and that's all cool, bro. Interesting, isn't it?
Now, I don't want to take your sarcastic tone and bring it down a little bit, but as somebody who has recently found out that one of his friends is basically addicted to the stuff and has developed voices in his head, potentially a form of schizophrenia due to abuse of literally just smoking way too much weed way too often, 24 hours 7 days a week in a complete haze.
That sounds miserable.
Yeah, the BBFC can go screw themselves, because the propaganda that's meted out to audiences is definitely part of that. When you, as you say, constantly being told, "Oh, it's really cool. It's basically good for you. It's like going to therapy and taking medication and everything that's good for you all at the same time."
Well, no, you see, that society is just more people are using it. More people are using the nitrous oxide canisters. So society's attitudes are changed. So we'll just loosen the standards, right? However, unfortunately, lots of people use discriminatory language, and that's bad. The BBFC has to take a stricter stance because people are using discriminatory language. You see, when people do something more, it's cool, so we relax the rating, but also sometimes when people do something a lot, that's bad, and we'll make it stricter. I'm sure we all follow the logic, right?
But the terms that they give here, son of a B, and dick, if the public are using these more often, surely that's a reflection of the changing attitudes, and we should relax standards.
You'd have thought. I mean, if you were the kind of really cool person who goes and actually reads these reports, you'd find that there's always a lot of people saying they don't care about this stuff.
Wait a moment. This sentence immediately following. The worry is that young viewers may hear and repeat such language. I was always taught that media is just entertainment, fantasy, and fairy tales and has no effect in the real world. This has got to be a typo.
Yes, I distinctly remember that people do not repeat what they see in the media, and
Yes,
therefore
Harry.
it's cool. But
This
also,
is the same media that tells us that it's not happening, but it's also a good thing.
yes, Harry unfortunately has got ahead of the game. You're too smart, Harry. Damn it. Yes, the worry is that young people may hear and repeat such language, but there is no worry that young viewers will see and consider trying drugs. BBFC, we love you.
Or
Stay
engaging
strong.
in an interracial relationship that will surely end in failure.
Well, that was one of the very early no-no contexts. You could not do that in the earliest days of the BBFC. They did not go for it.
Based.
Well, let's be fair. To pick up on any of this stuff, you need to have at least one standard deviation above a typical Aboriginal Australian. So we can't expect that of the mass public, can we?
Yeah. Well, not now.
Oh dear. I knew this would be trouble. All right, good. That is the BBFC.
You invited this on yourself.
I did. There's
hey,
two.
I'm behaving myself.
Yes, all fun and games with the BBFC. In fairness, they did get absolutely kneecapped by Ofcom, and I think this is them trying to be a bit more relevant. They certainly spent a lot more. They did a survey of 12,000 people for this. It's with a new organisation I've not seen them use before. That is considerably bigger than anything in the past. So, we always keep an eye on our BBFC folks. We update you with the greatest logic that the BBFC has. But we'll move on from that because there's one other story. Did anyone catch the news about Scream 7 disappearing up its own metaverse?
Nope.
After Scream 6, I don't care anymore.
Two of their actresses kind of got nuked for their protest against a certain conflict.
Yes.
Oh, what on earth could that be?
I'm having to behave.
Chills.
Yeah,
Definitely
interesting stuff.
that one.
For some reason I can't put my finger on. The owners of Spyglass Media were very unhappy with comments made by Melissa Barrera. There is debate over whether Jenna Ortega bailed out in solidarity because she was basically the bigger star, or she saw a sinking ship.
Wait, is it the two primary actors?
Oh yeah, they
Or
bailed out.
actresses? They're both gone. Phew.
Yep. Big oof, big oof. However, one of the controversies of Scream 6 was that Nev Campbell didn't turn up. Now, at the time, the line that Nev Campbell gave was, oh, by the way, and basically everyone quitting, they had to ditch the director as well, whose name I forget, but he is the guy who did almost all of the Paranormal Activity films and the Happy Death Day films. His name escapes me for the moment. Let's see if it turns up in this article. Nah, I can't remember. Anyway, he's out of the picture. It's fine. Basically, Scream 7 imploded, collapsed. Actually, can I get who can do a good Steve Turley implode? Anyone?
Sorry.
Never mind. We'll keep our dignity.
Thank you.
It was Christopher Landon. That's his name. So basically, big implosion. What's even going to happen? Well, one of the stories in Scream 6 was that Nev Campbell didn't turn up. Nev Campbell, the face of Scream, didn't turn up. And the line she gave was that the salary she was offered was far too small given the value she brings. And also, it's just so hard being a whammon in Hollywood. Okay. Yeah. I'm starting to wonder if she looked at the Scream 6 script and saw the absolute disaster unfolding that I chronicled in the currently kicked into the shadow realm of copyright claims, but hopefully coming back any day soon, analysis of Scream 6 that I did. Maybe she bailed out because of the script quality.
I'm still proud of myself for my very astute prediction about that movie.
Oh, you nailed it. I just played that on screen. Yeah, called it. Yeah, so she is now back, though. She is back for Scream 7. And who else is back? Wait, it's the writer of the original, Kevin Williamson. Also the writer of The Faculty, the writer of I Know What You Did Last Summer, the lesser seen Teaching Mrs. Tingle.
and he's going to direct it as well.
Yeah, he's going to try directing for the first time. Now, I introduced this as Scream 7 disappearing up its own metaverse. And I do... Yeah. Perfect, Mr. GB.
Will Scream 6 and potentially Scream 5, could you imagine if he turned around and said, actually, that was Stab 9 and 10 all along? Reboot the reboot.
You say that, but Harry, this is exactly... Scream 5 has just happened in real life. For people who don't know, the plot of Scream 5 is that their in-universe Scream series, which is called Stab, produces an effectively woke reboot that is terrible, doesn't follow the logic, is an absolute embarrassment, and the fans hate it. And so...
Relatable.
Yeah, they go back to basics, they return to the original to try and restart the series. That's what happens. Restart the Stab series, that is. Spoilers, by the way. If you're on this channel, you've seen that movie already or heard me talk about it endlessly. Okay. In Scream 7, in real life, Scream 6 was Stab 8. They produced their own Stab 8, a movie so terrible that it made the franchise implode. And now, what are they doing? They're going back to the original. They've got Nev Campbell back in. They've got the original author back in. They're literally doing the Scream 5 plot. They are doing it IRL. They did the meme. And I just found that hilarious.
It's fun.
I know it's always, ever since the first one, I know that people have always said, oh, what if he came back? But what if it did turn out it was, say, Stab 9 and Stab 10, and the secret twist was they'd been directed by Matthew Lillard.
Dun, dun, dun.
And he somehow was using how terrible those films were as a way to draw out Neve Campbell so that he could go after her again. I'm going to finish. I didn't finish you off last time, but this time I'm going to get you for good.
Somehow, Stu returned. No one's ever really gone, right?
Somebody clip this in case Harry's right.
That would be fun. Yeah.
We'll do it, by the way. Oh, hello, TCG. Thank you very much for £2. I can't actually scream that scream, but I certainly appreciate it. TCG, this is the chance for you to get the Stu return that you want. This is a chance. So, yeah.
I know lots of people find Matthew Lillard annoying, but I honestly would like to see him come back. I think he's got a strangely charming screen presence, not screen presence, maybe a screen presence. He's great.
I agree with you, Harry. I've always thought he had a very unique charm to him, despite being silly and goofy. I like him.
And his brief appearance in Twin Peaks Series 3 always gets me. You just don't expect it.
Oh. No, he's got a cool presence. He's got a cool presence. Even in some of the weirder movies he did. Seeing Hackers,
and also I constantly get compared to looking like Shaggy as well, so I kind of have to like him by default.
Yeah.
Is that why you did that?
Yes, he was in that ridiculous Hackers movie. Yes.
Good times. Good times. Yeah. There is your brief Scream 7 update. Just the meta. It was too perfect. It had to be done. Yeah, see, TCG's got it. Sydney back, Big Kev. Yes. It's not like, I mean, you might as well bring him back. Alternate universe Stu Boot. The Stooniverse.
Speaking of things that return to life, shall we begin discussing Christine?
We really should. There you go. We'll keep it brief. Half an hour in. Let's talk about years. I mean, it's got to be you. Could you give us the pint of Guinness summary for Christine? For anyone who's not been here before, that is summarizing the plot for anyone who hasn't watched this as part of their horror homework in the time it takes to pour a pint of Guinness.
Certainly. Christine is an adaptation of a Stephen King story about a car that is possessed by a hateful spirit. In the novel or short story, I forget which one it is, by Stephen King, it's a little bit different, but the screen adaptation, I forget the writer who did it, I forget his name, but he's pretty good. He wrote this story for a screenplay for John Carpenter. It is about a car that is from the 50s, and later in the is the movie actually set in 1983, or is it set at a particular date? I don't recall exactly.
78 and 79.
That's it, yeah. So it's in the late 70s. So around 20 years after the car, Christine, was manufactured. She is a 1958 Plymouth Fury, and there are pieces of 57 Furies in the movie as well. So, car pedants out there that really care about that, they will argue over the minutiae and have lots to say about that. But basically, the gist of the story is as follows. The story follows two high school friends, Dennis and Arnie. Arnie is kind of a nerdy loser, and Dennis is a well-liked football jock, American football jock. And they are friends, and it is shown to us that they are both sympathetic characters early in the movie. He's a nerd, and maybe this is the same in the UK. I imagine it is all throughout the Anglosphere, that handsome jocks that do sporty stuff, it's kind of socially uncool to hang out with the nerds. So, that's a social no-no, right? Like, if you care about prestige and being cool when you're a young guy, that kind of thing. But Arnie and Dennis remain friends, even though it's uncool and not socially good for Dennis to be friends with Arnie, even through high school. So they're presented to us as being sympathetic characters early in the movie. Arnie has really bossy, negative Nancy, really shitty parents. He's got a really henpecked, emasculated father and this really overbearing, nasty mother, and they just rule his whole life. And Arnie resents them and hates them, so he wants to escape. Arnie is out with Dennis one day, and they see. Do you have the original beat to crap Christine that they buy from the old guy? Do you have a picture of that?
Do I have it? Yes, I think I've got one. Let me look through that. Gosh darn it, where is he? Got him. Got him.
Okay, good. All right. So when Dennis is on the right, or in the middle technically, and then Arnie is on the left. Arnie's the little nerd guy, and he sees this car when Dennis and him are just driving by this old junky beat to crap house with this weirdo old guy who lives here. And for whatever reason, almost like a magic spell was cast on Arnie, he immediately becomes captivated by this beat to crap old late 50s car. and he wants Dennis to stop. And they go and they look at it. And for some reason, Arnie just loves this car. He becomes infatuated with it and wants to buy it. So he asks this guy, hey, are you going to sell this car? Like it's something special. And the old guy is like, sure, I'll sell it to you. And it's a few $100s. I forget the exact amount or whatever. And Dennis is like, dude, it's not worth this. This is a piece of crap. It's not even going to run. But Arnie, he sees it at the time, we are to believe, he sees this as a new project that he can work on that will get him out of the house, get him away from his oppressive parents, his horrible parents, and let him have some freedom. That's what we're to think at the beginning. Well, come to find out, as he starts to revamp this car, he goes to a local like a members club garage where people come together and work on cars and stuff, which I'll talk about more later about Americana things, because you asked me before stream to share some American things that non-American viewers might not get about this movie. We'll talk about that.
Oh, please.
So Arnie starts dumping his whole life into restoring this car. He gets confidence. He makes some friends with some older men who sort of, they give him gruff at first to test him, and you know, he sort of checks out and he proves himself to the older men at the garage that, you know, he's dedicated. He shows up there. They even give him a job, a quote unquote job, to, you know, keep the place in order and, you know, keep eyes on it and stuff. So, you know, it's kind of good camaraderie building with Arnie and the dudes at the shop where he works on Christine. Well, then we start realizing what's actually going on through the movie. The more confidence that Arnie gets, the changes begin to happen. He loses the glasses. He starts to dress differently. He starts to speak differently. And he starts to become less sympathetic. And this is a credit to the writer, the director, and the actor who played Arnie. It is difficult from a writing, directing, and acting standpoint to create a genuinely sympathetic character. And it is way harder to make a genuine arc of a sympathetic, likable, everyday character into an evil heel. And they do that in this movie. Arnie becomes, over the course of the first 2 acts of the film, he becomes an unsympathetic, evil asshole that is mean to people, abusive, selfish, self-driven for petty, selfish reasons. And we find out it's because the car is magical. Now, something I left out. The opening of the film is shot, or is supposed to be a car manufacturing lot in Detroit. And for those of you that don't know, Detroit back in the 40s, 50s, and 60s was the place for manufacturing American cars. And the opening scene shows on the production line, whenever shift is called and people clear the work line, somebody comes into the car and the car kills them. Now, I'm not going to spoil it for you because it's fun to watch. But we learn that Christine, back when she was originally manufactured, at the very beginning of this car's life, was already evil and bloodthirsty, and it had an evil spirit in it. We don't know where it comes from, but that's what the opening scene shows. So,
if I may, like, I love just that opening stood out, the way the guy reaches out and gets, like, just from the very first, before even killing, just he reaches out, he's just trying to take care of Christine, do something good for her. The bonnet slaps down, crushes his hand. Just like, even though he was trying to support her, kind of like a reform party for a candidate that was just trying to stand up, you know?
Very good. Very good.
Just
Glad you worked that in. Glad you worked that in.
So it was so smooth, wasn't it?
Oh, very good. Very good. So
and
it is shown to us.
Sorry. To add, oh, sorry. You're going to discuss what happens to this. I think the one black character in the entire film.
Yeah, well, there might be another one, but no, there's not much diversity in this film.
Although he's chomping on a rather nice looking cigar, I must say.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of Chad to just smoke a cigar in a brand new car.
Yeah. So anyway,
this
Christine
respects the car.
Christine is
he
shown
flicks
that
aside the ash from the cigar as Richard Tice does to candidates posting sensible policies.
Exactly.
So we are shown from the opening scene that, like any bad guy movie monster, like Jason Voorhees or Jaws from Jaws, as a force of nature, it is a bad guy antagonist. We know this about the car. Now, Arnie finds it. The first act concludes. During the second act, it is shown to us that Arnie is becoming evil. He is becoming possessed by the car. or the car is making him evil and perverting his mind and spirit to be just as nasty and rotten as whatever spirit inhabits this car, Christine. And his friends are sympathetic. They try to help him. He won't have it. He's nasty to his friends. He's mean to the girl he's dating. And of course, everyone turns on him because he becomes an evil scumbag. But here's the thing. He loves Christine. He's infatuated with Christine. And so these bullies at high school that have been mean to Arnie, they find out where he keeps the car and where he works on it. So the bullies come in and they're going to get one on old Arnie. They're not going to let him, be all badass and cool. They're going to go put that nerd in his place. So the bullies that bully him at high school, they come to the shop. They destroy Christine. They destroy it, smash it. One of them takes a crap in the car. They just absolutely mangle the car. And Arnie is really messed up about it. And however, I'm sorry, Arnie is not really messed up about it because the car regenerates in one of the best practical effects shots I have ever seen in any film. This is one of the things I love about this movie.
Does anybody know how they did that? Because that
I do, because I've
effect
watched the behind the scenes. I know how they did it. Do you want me to tell you, or do you want me to wait till later?
Oh, okay. All right.
Well, anyway, so let me finish the synopsis real quick. We're almost done. It is shown to us that the car cannot be destroyed. It regenerates itself. And we are shown through a series of very good scenes. The car can drive itself. Now, the windows are blacked up, so, the viewer can't really tell if there's someone in it or not, because obviously in real life, somebody had to be driving the car. But the car goes out on its own at night. It opens the garage door to the shop alone by itself, goes out and hunts down these bullies. How does it know where they are? Obviously, bad guy movie magic. That's how. It hunts down the bad guys, or the bullies that bashed her up, brutally kills them, and then comes back and parks itself. And so the cops get involved. There's a detective that is harrying Arnie because he knows he has to be involved, because obviously the cop doesn't believe in magical killer cars. And so the movie culminates with Arnie being dark under the eyes, clearly a man possessed with madness and evil. And he and Christine try to kill the protagonists, Dennis and who does Alexandra play? What's her character's name? I forgot.
Is it Lee?
Lee.
No, Lee is her name.
It's Alexandra Paul's the actor. I don't remember.
Oh no, it is Lee. It's
okay.
Lee Cabot. Gosh, I actually remember the character name.
So Dennis and Lee have to jock up and fight the evil killer car, and they finally destroy it. Well, seemingly destroy it by crushing it with the bulldozer and putting it in a car compactor and crushing it. And at the end of the movie, of course, there's old Dean Stanton. He's the detective. There they are, mangled and messed up. Or not mangled and messed up. There they are looking at a mangled and messed up Christine. And of course, the movie ends with... Do you have a picture?
I don't have that one. I just have them looking at it.
So the movie ends, of course, like all classic horror movies, of the monster isn't dead, and the crumpled up cube of the smashed, destroyed Christine. You see a little bit of... And then old 1950s music starts playing to let you know the car can't die. They didn't destroy it. So now this sounds like...
The guy with a boombox, they were freaking out because they heard the music, and it turns out it was one of the workers.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a nice double bluff. Did you mention as well that in the course of them trying to destroy Christine at first, Arnie just gets flung out of the windscreen?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't mention that, no. But the obviously the car doesn't care about Arnie. It's just using him. The car is super evil. Doesn't care about Arnie really. And just like an evil succubus or an evil vampire has Arnie wrapped around her finger and just using him. So obviously he dies, of course, horribly, and they defeat the car. So that's the pint of Guinness synopsis. Now, I have many notes prepared. I have many things to talk about. I have 3 or 4 points prepared in my head to talk about American minutia that maybe non-American viewers might have missed out on. But I've spoken for quite some time. I am glad to turn it over to someone else.
No, that's great. Thank you so much. Yeah, that should do for everyone who didn't manage to watch this film. I would say it's a good watch. It did surprise me when I saw it that it was an hour and 50, and you actually clued me in because how can I say?
What's funny?
John Travolta.
Patrick Bateman has left a Batman.
Oh,
Sorry,
no.
has left a fantastic little super
Patrick
chat
Batman.
Patrick Batman is a bit of a star here.
That's pretty good.
Here
That's
we
pretty
go.
good, Patrick Batman.
Thank you, Patrick Batman, for £5. Arnie is basically Matt Walsh from Daily Wire, a young guy desperately trying to be an out-of-touch boomer. Boomer's rude, liking classic cars. Very nice. Very nice.
What
Thank you
haven't
very
they
much,
ruined?
Patrick
Let's be
Batman.
honest. What haven't they ruined?
Yeah,
All right.
No, trust me, bro. Matt Walsh really cares about cars.
One of
Sorry,
the themes,
games.
one of the themes that this film reminded me of was that boomers love classic cars and love fixing up their cars and obsessing over their cars, because there's a point where you can have it's great to have a hobby, it's great to have an engineering hobby that keeps you active and keeps you fit, but oftentimes I have seen older gentlemen obsessing over their cars to the point of it affecting their relationships outside of that very negatively. So that film, this film reminded me of that. And just to touch on something that you were talking about there, Years, about obviously there is the social dynamic going on between Dennis and Arnie to begin with, where Dennis is he the star quarterback, or is he head of the school football team? He's a jock.
No, he's
either
not a
way.
quarterback. He's I think he's a tight end or a running back or something.
Well, he seems to be integral to the team, because when he gets injured, Arnie comes to him and says they've not scored since they've not won a game since you left. So
the reason why I know he's not a quarterback is his injury is because he's distracted seeing Arnie kiss this woman on in front of Christine when he's about to catch a pass, and then he gets clobabbered and gets messed up and sent to the hospital. Yeah. So I know he's not a quarterback because he wouldn't be catching a pass if he was a quarterback. But I'm not big into football, so I don't know what wide receiver perhaps.
Either way,
you're right.
Either way, he's important to the narrative, to the football team, and he's very popular. He's a fine-looking young man, and typically in films, especially from the 1980s that I'm aware of from America, this inverts the usual narrative that we're shown, the kind of revenge of the nerds narrative, which was very, very common at that time, where the handsome, sporty jock is a secret asshole. He's really nasty to everybody around him. He's only popular because he's a bully. And the nerds are secretly all virtuous. Their meekness is what makes them great. Whereas this film portrays it in a way that I would say is far more realistic and true to life, which is that the popular, handsome guy who's good at sports is, at his heart, a good guy. He's a nice guy who's eager to be friends with people that he likes. He's happy to stand up for those that he's friends with, even if those are supposedly lower on the social rungs. And the nerd is not the... Nerd was the good guy all along. No, what this shows is that the second that this Arnie guy gets any sort of leverage in his life to exercise power over himself, whether you want to say it's due to the evil influence of Christine or not, that he's actually a resentful little bastard.
Or a spiteful mutant, we might say these days.
Yeah, spiteful mutant, and turns into an asshole who tries to victimize those around him and immediately abandons his relationships and the friendships with those who'd stuck by him, even when it was potentially socially costly to them. And I thought that was a really nice inversion to see, because especially, like I say, in the 80s, you don't often see that.
And one thing to bring up is something that John brought up in the chat here. When Dennis gets his injury, obviously Christine is there. But it is interesting, because if you look at the context clues and the dialogue from the rest of the movie, maybe they weren't even there at all. Maybe Christine was there showing Dennis an illusion just to get him injured. So that's possible. But, the bullies see them there too. Did Christine show them that because she was trying to bait the bullies to the car shop to kill them? It's up for conjecture. But John does bring up a point that some people do talk about this movie. Of is this an illusion or not? We don't know.
I'm feeling I have missed a lot in this movie. Gosh darn it!
Well, I've seen this movie like 50 times. So I love this movie.
Just when you're saying the sudden turn, the Arnie's sudden fascination with the car instantly, I thought, that's kind of goofy. But yeah, you put it in the context of how it warps his brain. Yeah, of course, it latched onto him.
Yeah, and also John Carpenter knows about classic horror. He knows about classic fiction. And how common is it the handsome, bedeviling beguiler, magician or mentalist or devil or vampire, or the seductress, vampire, demoness, whatever. They pick the weak, yearning lesser class person to manipulate because they have a lesser will and they can manipulate them and offer them things to do their bidding. Christine, Dennis is a jock. He's got his stuff together. He's a good guy. He's got a good heart. He's got natural confidence. Christine's powers maybe wash over him, but her evil powers latch onto Arnie, and she's like, "Oh, there's my mark. Come get me, Arnie." That kind of thing.
Dennis seems to immediately be quite a good judge of character because he's immediately trying to warn Arnie off even buying the thing. He gets bad vibes from it and the owner immediately.
Let's
whereas
get that owner up again, just so we can see.
Ironically, the wholesome family guy, the wholesome shovel guy from Home Alone, I recognized him immediately. This is quite a turn for that character. This is what I assume happened after the end of Home Alone. The family reunion didn't go quite so well. But Arnie, you could say, oh, well, he was just an unassuming guy who got manipulated by the car. But I think the car latched onto him, like you say, not necessarily because he was just a good guy at heart and got manipulated. No, he latched onto Christine latched onto something that was always in him.
Yeah,
that
weakness and pettiness and anger and a desire to lash out. Yeah, like childish emotional pettiness.
Are the most dangerous.
Absolutely. And I think this film is better than a lot at showing that, especially in a narrative that's otherwise quite simple.
Yeah.
To add to that, if we let's just bring the bullies in. I was just thinking of that, what you're saying in terms of inverting a bit of the usual one. In John Carpenter's casting, all the bullies fail the physiognomy check. Whereas I think
not the main bully. The main bully
he's a fine-looking guy.
The main bully is he's got passable physiognomy. The others, though,
you might question his hairstyle, but other than that, he seems like a fine young man.
It was the late 70s, though. Like many dudes had hair like that.
Yeah, he's got the John Travolta look.
Yeah, I mean that was a super popular hairstyle for sexy dudes back then.
You say John Travolta. I mean, he really does look like the John Travolta character.
I'm sure that's on purpose.
I wouldn't be surprised if Travolta was approached.
All the bullies were just alphas in Carrie. Like they were the most.
Fair,
yeah.
So I think Travolta probably was a bit too old for this role, but if he hadn't been, he definitely would have been approached.
It's the 80s slasher flick.
It's also not
30-year-old.
I need to correct Harry on something because he's not a movie expert. It's not that John Travolta would have been too old. John Travolta was too popular for this movie. John Carpenter liked back then, especially for movies, casting nobodies or lesser actors. And people like Kevin Bacon and Nicolas Cage were turned down. They saw interest in roles in this movie, and John Carpenter turned them down because he wanted lesser known actors for this movie.
I thought Nicolas Cage wasn't even much of a big name back in 1983 either, so he must have really been going for genuinely smaller actors.
Yes, but he was also still Nicolas Cage. So
yeah,
that could be part of it.
Nephew of Francis Ford
Coppola. The Coppola energy, a lot of family connections in Hollywood.
But the main bully guy here, that's the role that Nicolas Cage auditioned for, and John Carpenter didn't want him because he was just for whatever reason. I assume it was because he was either too well known or he was just too cagey. I don't know, but many people that don't know about John Carpenter and certain types of movies, a lot of times for horror movies, they don't want big names. They want lesser known names, people that are going to be more sympathetic and more everyman that people will relate to, because that builds natural sympathy that you don't have to try for. It's an easy get. It's an easy reach for making sympathetic characters that you're going to kill off in your movie, of having sort of, doofy, likable nobodies that the audience will respond to. So that's a movie tactic, a movie creating tactic in Hollywood.
Do you think he's deliberately meant to look like John Travolta in Carrie?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Carrie came out many years before this, and it was pretty popular. So I would say,
probably
6
years prior. It's almost too coincidental that he looks almost exactly like him in that film.
One thing that's sort of
go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say one thing that's sort of actually.
There's one bully that you don't have on screen that I would like to talk about after this. So
I'll try. Is it the guy in the garage?
No, it's a bit actor with a very unique face.
Oh, okay. I may have to. I'll try and pull up an image after this. But just to say thank you, Patrick Backman, again, £5. Thank you very much, sir. Saying I learned from college just because people have disadvantages doesn't automatically make them humble and virtuous. A lot are bitter and resentful. Yes, very much, very much the case. What's the phrase? Victim signaling? Is that what we've?
Villain signaling is what we call it. Villain signaling. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. A fair point. And yes, I'm afraid I have seen it in my own life. Yes.
So there are a lot of people in this movie that are in other things that I like, and I wanted to talk about it. And since we're talking about the bullies, do you remember the skinny, tall, goofy Ichabod Crane looking guy with the red hair? You remember him?
Yeah, that's a guy I'm thinking of. Can I get a name from him? Can you give me the actor name?
Stuart Charno is his name.
Okay.
He of course has been in a lot of things, including Star Trek. He's been in X-Files. He's been in Star Trek. He's been in a lot of stuff. He's a really cool bit actor that is always good on screen, even though he's almost unknown to everyone. But he's been in a lot of stuff.
Oh, I've got him from that same scene. I'll get him up. He's slightly in the background, but it'll work for us.
Let's see what he is credited for. I'm on his IMDb right now. Apparently he was a writer for Star Trek, TNG.
That'll do. We have a TNG connection.
There we go. The thing that I know him from is he's Ted from Friday the 13th Part 2. And I love my Jason Voorhees movies. Yes. And also he was in one of my absolute favorite episodes of X-Files, which is Clive Bruckman's Gentle Repose. He was the psycho murderer in that episode, the bellhop at the hotel. That guy in the middle there. Yeah, that's him.
I do not know that one, but I like a Friday the 13th drop. Oh, Mergoot's on board. You're better on the X-Files than me, Mergoot.
All right. So there's a couple of other things to talk about here before we move on.
Oh,
let's
sure.
See. If you recall, let's see. We already talked about Harry Dean Stanton. There's really nothing I want to talk about with him.
I was going to add in on the bullies quickly. Just one of the things that kind of put me off when I was watching this a bit was that I kind of felt we were reliving Stephen King's therapy session. Like, what's going on, Stephen? Oh, it's a high school, right? Oh, they're 40-year-old bullies, are they? Oh, man. Oh, not again, bro.
Listen, I don't want to hear a Stephen King story where they're younger than 40 because we know what he likes to do with young characters.
Oh, boy.
I don't care for Stephen King as a man, but when it comes to his fiction, it's hit and miss. And a lot of that has to do with massive amounts of cocaine and him liking to stay rich to fund his cocaine habit. So that
makes sense to me.
The quality of his work is hit and miss for several reasons.
His best books were written while he was cocaine fueled. His later stuff just kind of went downhill.
I've only read 1.5 Stephen King books, and they were The Shining and Doctor Sleep, which ironically put me to sleep. But The Shining was good. Oh, wait, no, actually, I read Carrie when I was much younger as well, which was fine.
Okay.
But I want to contrast this very briefly against another Stephen King adaptation, the most famous one, that being Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, because I found it... it's a little-known film. It's quite a bit of a cult following. But I found it funny. There was a bit of Twitter discourse going on a few months ago where people had found the quote from Stephen King talking about Stanley Kubrick's adaptation and how Stanley just couldn't understand the complexity of a big haunted hotel. So instead, he made it about this like family drama and a man being driven insane and attacking his own family. Basically saying he accidentally made it far more interesting than my book was. Whereas with this film, not to say that there isn't deeper complexity to it, because I think we're actually doing a decent job of explaining it. But I like the fact that with this one, John Carpenter just looked at the book and just went, "Yeah, it's an evil car. Yeah, I'll just make a film about an evil car.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's a car. It's evil. Yeah, simple as."
So, the last character thing that I want to talk about before we can dig into the film, the character named Darnell, the old guy that ran the garage.
Oh, I liked him.
Me too. His name is Robert Prosky, and he has been in a mountain of things. And you guys know I absolutely love my hokey 80s and 90s action schlock. And
Oh,
what
yes.
better Hollywood send-off to that era of schlock than Last Action Hero with Arnold
way.
Schwarzenegger? And that's one of my
Excellent
favorite
movie.
movies of the 90s. I know it's hokey. I know it's stupid, but it has one of my favorite British actors in it. And it has Prosky in it. He's the guy that gives the young boy the magic ticket. He's the guy that plays Nick, who is the catalyst for the Last Action Hero movie. He's in
But
that,
he's
so.
a projectionist.
Yeah, he's the projectionist in
Oh,
Last
wow.
Action Hero. Yeah.
Nice.
But he's been in a mountain of other stuff. You guys might know him from other things. But and last but not least, the guy who plays Dennis, the good guy. What is it? I think his name
John
is
Stockwell.
Yeah, Stockwell. That's it. He was in one of my favorite old crappy 80s movies that I rented several times with my dad back in the 80s called City Limits. I love crappy 80s post-apoc movies. And City Limits is a great low-budget, crappy post-apoc movie about gang warfare in, I think it's obliterated New York or Los Angeles or something. I don't know. I haven't watched it in like 20 years, but
It's actually a decent B film.
it's okay. I don't know how good it is,
holds up.
but I like it because I like crappy, schlock and post-apoc garbage and full moon movies and stuff like that. So that City Limits has a soft spot in my heart. But anyway, I am done talking about bit actors and connections to other things outside the movie. So I am ready and willing to share anything. I can share now the few things I have prepared that you asked me to about Americanisms that maybe others wouldn't get about the movie. Do you want to start with that?
Oh, yeah. I really appreciate you looking at the characters. Much appreciated. I think, should we go for the thread that Harry did about Evil Car? Because I think I like to get the sort of how Stephen King does horror a bit. And then, yeah, I'd love to come back to the Americanisms. Sure. And Muggy, if there's anything, honestly, just say.
Yeah. Well, the first thing I'd say is King's allusion to the evil car, it being a Plymouth Fury. Just the name right off the bat. The evil, angry car. And it's very appropriate. Beautiful car.
I think he's got a real attachment to this story in particular, though. It's one of the ones that I see make the cameo for the in-jokes most often. Oh, I mean, maybe The Shining, but that's probably getting referenced outside of his movies a lot more. Whereas Christine, I know, turned up in It Chapter 2, turned up in Cat's Eye. My brain has now gone blank, but this car has cameoed. It's got a little bit of that Sam Raimi vibe to it of the car keeps turning up as a cameo. I think it's got a personal meaning to him. But as for, let's just pull on that thread about how Stephen King does horror, because I think that's a nice philosophical vein to go down.
Okay.
As Harry said, there's that chief conflict that King had with Kubrick, one of many actually, before he basically agreed to shut his mouth in order to be able to have the rights to make the 1997 version of The Shining the way he wanted to. That's why he stopped slagging the movie off from about 1995 onwards.
And it was all worth it in the end for that resounding success.
Yeah.
Where was it? Catherine had the comment already.
One of the things that I think is a scathing read of Stephen King, his horror doesn't really have heroes. His horror often shows how human beings are all sniveling cowards and selfish and evil to each other when bad things happen and there's no loyalty. And I think that is more of a personal indictment of Stephen King and how he views the world, being the disgusting shit-lib that he is. So
yes, there is a certain perspective on writing that all of your characters are just different factors of your own personality. So yeah, that says a lot about Stephen King. Really.
One thing, he does step away from that in The Stand, which is also, there's two things. There are heroic characters in that are loyal to each other, and it's not either a small town or a cramped space like a hotel in the middle of a blizzard, because it's sweeping. The Stand is the exception to a rule in his writing. Christine, suburbia, the cramped garage, the stifling high school fits his trope perfectly. But
Yeah. I think that's fair. He does go back to it over and over again. And I think that it's so weird because he does like this thing of everyone basically has hidden dark secrets. Oftentimes he likes that, and you think, okay, that's a bit more what we might call the sort of Thomas Sowell constrained vision of horror writing, and that's the kind of thing that Stanley Kubrick did. He thought, it's been said a few times, but the difference between the two Shinings is Stephen King wrote a story about a haunted hotel, and Stanley Kubrick made a film about a haunted man.
Yeah, that's how I would say it. Yeah,
and it's that key thing of, is the evil intrinsic or extrinsic? Like I would say the more constrained traditional view of horror is about expressing the sort of innate failings and weaknesses that we all have, that we could all fall prey to, that seems to be here for Arnie Cunningham in a way. Yep. But then you also have, I mean, I have to get it up, but basically,
yeah.
On some level, I feel Stephen is just doing it. It is an evil car, and I just thought he was angry about the Stanley Kubrick's The Shining because no, it's an evil hotel. Don't you get how evil it is? And
Stanley, you're obviously not intelligent enough to understand a haunted house story. Come on, man.
1408. It's just an evil room. Like they have, they're trying to get literally John Cusack has the meeting with Samuel L. Jackson's hotel manager and says, "What's going on there?" And he says, "It's just an effing evil room." And I kind of feel that Stephen King being very honest, like, bro, no, literally, it's a lamp monster. What do you want?
Yeah, and then there's the horrible Maximum Overdrive, and it's even worse.
Yeah,
remake trucks.
That movie's a mess.
The only good thing about Maximum Overdrive is the AC/DC soundtrack.
Yeah,
that's the only thing worth salvaging, except maybe the.
I'm a Gen X Appalachian. I love AC/DC. I can't help it. It's in my blood.
The soda machine racking the guy, throwing cans out of it. That was about the only scene worth salvaging out of that movie.
We're being harsh, okay? Them evil trucks, evil soda machines. What's the
evil
Mangler?
Hedges.
Was the
evil
Mangler?
Hedges.
Guys, was the Mangler a trouser? It was an ironing press, or is it steam cleaner?
I don't remember.
I don't know this. I'm not up on my Stephen King lore.
Chat, tell me what item of laundry machine apparatus the Mangler was about.
Evil pants. Oh, ooh.
It literally
evil underwear. It'll give you a wedgie. Ooh.
Dry cleaner press, I believe.
There we are. It's a dry cleaner press. Yes, I have read that story. But
do you mind if I just? I agree. Stephen King is a surface level hack at heart. He is. He really should have been writing old pulp novels, is what he was doing. But somehow, through the sheer quality of some of the adaptations of some of his novels, managed to get elevated to the status that he's at right now.
I will say something positive about Stephen King's work. I've been told by my husband, who really likes the Dark Tower series, that Stephen King can write good fiction. It's just his horror is usually bad. My husband is also a writer, and he's read thousands of books. He says that Stephen King really shines sometimes, and there is a good writer in there. It's just, if you only have a surface perusal of his work, you probably wouldn't know it, because most of the good things, at least according to my husband, that Stephen King has written are not very well known, or they are his fantasy fiction, not his horror fiction.
So yeah, I've heard.
Take that for what it is. I don't read Stephen King at all, so I don't have a personal opinion.
My fiance has the full Dark Tower. When she actually gets around to finishing reading it, I'll get back to you. But to finish off my thought, if we were to take a bit of a deeper look at the sort of themes that we're discussing in something like his version of The Shining, given that a lot of his characters seem to be not just reflections of himself, but so many of them are just like in The Shining, it is basically Stephen King, struggling writer with an alcohol problem, struggling with the problems that come with that and his family at the same time. What are you talking about with that?
Oh, yes.
Patrick Bateman made the best comment yet, by the way. You should pop that up.
Absolutely true.
But
Sorry, Harry.
that externalizing of the horror, whereas Stanley Kubrick made it all internal, might really be the root of the disagreement that they had, and whether Stephen King would want to acknowledge it or not, which is that Stephen King is seeing all of his failings, all of the difficulties with his own life, and putting them on. It's not me, it's the spooky hotel that I'm in. Ooh, it's these spooky underwear. It's my spooky car that I'm driving. That's why everything's going wrong in my life.
Much like Garth Marenghi blames his failings on everything but himself, too.
Yes, whereas Stanley Kubrick said, no, it's you. You've got a drinking problem. You don't treat your family the way that you should. You're neglectful. You don't work as hard as you should. And to someone like Stephen King, who has the S-lib perspective on life, which is that there are no internal problems, only societal problems, man, that must sting.
I'm so glad you said that. I mean, so two thoughts. Yes, I agree with your husband. I was going to say, like, as many times as there's the evil noun story, he does write good stuff. Like I would say The Dark Half, Gerald's Game, Carrie. I enjoyed those.
Well, like I said, I don't read him, but
yeah,
my husband's read a lot of stuff that Stephen King has written, and he says there is some really good stuff, primarily the Dark Tower stuff. So
that I've got a fondness for.
Especially the unabridged edition is actually really good because it's a sweeping post-apocalypse fantasy rather than horror.
Yeah.
True,
which is cool.
Flawed,
it's about magic and planeswalking and dimensional doors and trying to fix fate where the multiverse is falling apart and stuff. It's just cool. Those are cool ideas and cool themes. I like it.
He can do it. When Stanley Kubrick met him, he was really kind of in the peak cocaine phase. Very annoyingly, this was done in 1980. Christine was 1983. So his key book on that, Danse Macabre, does not reference it because that was written 1982. So it's a bit too close. But Harry got there with it's exactly how I would phrase it: externalized versus internalized. And I was going to say that externalized horror is basically your predictor of the leftist S-lib progressive view, because basically, if the Torrances don't go to The Shining, everything is hunky-dory. So if they don't go to the Overlook Hotel, everything's hunky-dory. It's all good. The externalized source of horror is something you just sort of, I don't know, crush, burn down, explode, and then the evil is solved and it's done. So it's basically, if we do an intervention, it's all good. Versus the constrained, mature version of no, this is a permanent threat. You need to permanently guard against it. The slippery slope is real, my boys.
Yes, very much so.
You start giving in, etc. So it's so tricky because he will write things that are so externalized, and then he'll write something which gets to mostly gets to the heart of that good internalized deep horror ideal, like Pet Sematary, where it's like your very natural yearnings to go against nature must be resisted. Nothing good that way lies.
Just as an aside on The Shining, the Overlook Hotel was based off the Stanley Hotel in Estes Park, Colorado, about an hour northwest of Denver. Beautiful place. You can take a tour. Supposedly haunted in a couple of rooms. Stephen King worked there over a winter and it freaked him out. So it's a beautiful place, though. It was set up by the guy who made the Stanley Steamer carpet cleaning. He also made the Stanley Steamer steam-powered car. Just
goodness!
Facts off the top of my head.
Okay.
I used to take women up there on dates who I knew were fascinated by Stephen King, and take them on tours around the grounds. That was kind of fun.
Cool. So I guess the one good thing that Stephen King ever did was help Margaret get laid.
Yeah. Well, hey.
Well,
I'm thinking of some terrible You must have tried a chat up line like, who's the real king now?
Well, a smart man once said you should close with a joke. So how about we close the book, haha, on Stephen King with that joke, and let's talk about Christine. What do you say?
We should get back to it. I'd like to think that, as with The Shining, a lot of the genius was probably put in by John Carpenter. I like to think that's where it came
from. Speaking of the genius, something did come up earlier. Harry talked about the practical effects. This is where John Carpenter and the team of people that he worked with really gets to shine, because I don't have to tell you about The Thing and how awesome the practical effects were in that, especially at the time. The way that they did it is John Carpenter has some of the best reverse footage I have ever seen in any film in this movie. The way that they did the car regenerating stuff, Harry, is they had pistons, pulleys, wires, cables set to these pneumatic drives that would wheel them in and push them out to create bending effects, popping effects, and crumpling effects of metal from the inside. So they shot it in probably really high speed. So when they did it in reverse, they could dilate the time and make it look like in real time the car was regenerating, when really they just captured it with high-speed film roll being slowly collapsed and mangled from the inside with unseen pistons, wires, and pulleys.
Well, that was a really fantastic effect. I was wondering how they did it, because I thought it must have been reversed in some way, but then I thought it must have been done internally, because obviously you can't have them just smash it from the outside and reverse the footage, because that would be visible.
Well,
it was. Oh, sorry.
Funny story about that. In the behind the scenes footage, they talked about how they did all of that, and the one thing that they had to use. They couldn't put wires and stuff up into the little side view mirror on the side of the door. So when it was crumpling, they just shot it. so if you slow it down, as the little broken side view mirror pops back into place, there's actually a frame that they cut out where they shot it.
Well, that makes more sense. But I really have to commend the film for that, because this, I think, that has to rank for me in terms of movie monster scenes, especially movie monster transformation scenes. It has to rank up there alongside something like The Thing, and alongside it really reminded me of the werewolf transformation scene in American Werewolf in London. It was that kind of regeneration where the car, Christine acting more in a sort of flesh and blood way, was regenerating its flesh. And this is a wonderful shot you've got here as well, Chloe, of the kind of gaping maw of the car after it's been smashed a bit. It looks like it's baring its teeth. Because really, for me, this film was one beautifully shot. It was an excellent looking film, especially whenever Christine was on screen. Because that signature motif of the heavy lens flares. Whenever the headlights came on, made it really distinctive, and the actual set pieces.
And they used extra powerful batteries to make those lights that bright. They burnt out a bunch of headlights doing these scenes, because they had hidden powerful battery packs inside the prop cars to make the headlights super bright, to give it that extra lens flare and like intimidating gaze from evil eyes. Those are not normal headlights.
It was absolutely worth it to do that, because that's the shot when the headlights first come on. This is when Christine is really revealing herself for the first time, because before this is about halfway through the film, you get those scenes where you see the effect Christine is having on Arnie. You get an understanding that something weird is going on. I think before this, you get the scene where Lee and Arnie are at the drive-in theater. And Lee almost chokes to death and has to be rescued, and the car locks the door so Arnie can't save her.
She has trouble swallowing. Many such cases.
For God's sake.
Chloe, please.
Yeah, I thought this
at least it wasn't. At least you're not making a homosexual
friendly.
comment. At least that was hetero.
What? I was just talking about the burgers. Come on, guys.
Sure.
Fire effect. What'd they do? Actually use gasoline, or did they use fire gel for that? Did they say the making of?
I don't remember. No, if they said, I don't remember.
They used fire gel.
Can I just pause quickly, guys? Just because this is coming, I want to make sure I catch it before. Hopefully, I haven't missed you, Adam, because I just want to address the comments since there is a question. When is the Shinning video coming out? and then very complimentary about the channel. Thank you so much, Adam. It's good to see you again. I know you had a shift pattern change, so it was, pleasure to see you in here. So the answer, when is it coming out? The commentary for The Shining, and that is the full American version. Eurovags, yes, there is a difference. There's about a 25 minutes difference. I've done the commentary for the full American version, and that is out now for channel members, which you can find if you check the community tab. I gave the links to everything. I had to do it that way because we have members on Subscribestar and YouTube, so that's how you can find it. But if you wait until they're released normally, the Shining commentary is on episode 3 of the series, and that'll be linked. So that would come out next weekend. So there we go. Not too far off. Not too far off. And you get 2 commentaries this weekend anyway. So I hope that helps.
Right.
I think you'll love
Wonderful.
it, man.
Just to finish off what I was saying was that this is a real set piece film, because that first half of it, beyond this and 1 or 2 moments, the first hour or so of the film is setting up for the second half, because as soon as you get this scene, which is beyond that choking scene, the first scene where Christine is really revealing herself to Arnie, from this point on the film is non-stop. You get a sequence of really great kill scenes, which I thought were fantastic, especially when Christine is forcing herself through the narrow alleyway to try and get to the fatso bully, and then when she assaults the other bullies, and eventually by blowing up the gas station and chases Buddy down the road with those fantastic shots of him running away from the headlights in the darkness. I thought that was all very iconic looking.
Oh, I love that
then
part.
You get
the flaming Christine chasing him down the road. That's so cool.
Oh yeah, it's absolutely brilliant, and I've really got to commend Carpenter, because Carpenter I love as a filmmaker, but sometimes his films can be a bit hit and miss. Like, I'm not a huge fan of Escape from New York. I thought it was a bit boring.
Really?
Fog.
Oh,
Yeah, I know. I watched it ages ago, so I might be wrong.
As an older man, you might appreciate it more. No, it is a slower movie. That's true. It is someone unfair to it might call it turgid, but it is a slow movie. It's true.
If I can, I mean, that's in line with Carpenter. We watched They Live last week with Scrump, and it was
that was fun.
It's a cozy, slow, atmospheric start.
So is The Fog, and it's really good too.
Yeah, The Fog. Halloween too. Nothing kicks off. Okay, you have the opening kill. Nothing really kicks off until about 45 minutes in, and then it just goes absolutely full throttle. The Thing as well. Slow build up, get you in, get you established, know your characters, and then he just starts putting his foot down, and just the film accelerates, and then he gets to his end and he just kills it straight away. He doesn't do a long drawn out ending ever.
So,
I appreciate that.
That's the probably the Fog is another one of his that I watched probably about 5-6 years ago at this point that I wasn't a fan of at the time, but you're right. I need to go back to it with older, more experienced, more mature eyes to probably get a better feel for it.
And one thing, Harry, to remember about films that are like older horror, a big part of horror is what's scary to you is only in your head. So to build suspense and horror tension, leaving things out and making you wonder when the other shoe is going to drop is a big part of classic horror telling. So, so on screen, when you have movies like The Fog, when you have things like, or even the iconic blockbuster Jaws, has a lot of slow build up and slow tension of, oh, is this a shark? Oh no, it's not this time. Oh, is it a shark? Oh no, it's not this time. Like that kind of thing. So
I'm a fan of older horror. I've never been a particularly big fan of the more recent style of horror that introduced in the mid 2000s, where it's all about the jump scares, getting straight to the point with all of it. I'm a fan of suspense. Just when I watched them when I was a bit younger, I wasn't as big on the atmosphere that The Fog was building. But once again, this was at a different time in my life when I was not I was under the influence of certain substances at the time when I was watching it that might not have helped the experience. I had the same problem the first time I tried to watch Halloween, but then went back to it at Halloween last year, and it was a really excellent film. So I'm sure I'll have a similar.
It is.
My fiance loved The Fog. I just didn't enjoy it, but I did fall asleep. So
that's fine. You don't have to like it to make me happy or anything. I'm just saying that as a younger person, I also didn't appreciate films that I really love now as an older person, because maybe it's due to, like you said, drugs. I did a lot of drugs when I was younger. I was also a lot wilder and stupider when I was younger, and and perhaps movies require a certain mindset and collection of emotional experiences to deeply appreciate. And so, John Carpenter was not a young man when he made these. He was already, I think, in his late 20s or early 30s. So, he already has some of the world in him. And so maybe as an older man, you might find that revisiting some things that you didn't enjoy as much when you were younger in an entirely different light, because that's been my experience since I started revisiting things in my 30s and 40s. I appreciate and like things that I discounted when I was younger.
Yeah.
Well,
I think
it also doesn't help that the media and social media and pushing ADHD and ADD on kids shortens people's attention span, and slow burns get boring for people who can only sit still for a TikTok.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But I think what we've touched on here is the Carpenter, as you said, for all of these films, the slow build into the suddenly explosive second act or second half or third act, where it's go go go. My probably my favorite Carpenter film that I've watched is The Mouth of Madness, which is probably not quite as popular as some of them, but that's got a very similar setup where the first 40 minutes or so are quite slow. Is building those narrative threads, which really have an excellent payoff as soon as you get into the town that they're approaching, and from that point on, that film builds a ridiculously creepy atmosphere.
I remember the first time I saw it, just how unsettling and creepy it was to see that nice old lady with the naked old man chained to her leg. That was weird. That made me feel kind of squidgy and upset. Like it was good. It was very effective.
Yeah, and that's another great set piece film where they're driving down the long dark road to go into the town. That's when that film really kicks in. But once again, you can see all of those hallmarks of Carpenter's filmmaking from a very early point in his career. And this film is quite a nice, simple greatest hits collection of all of his signature trademarks that we've identified here. The slow build, the quite endearing and charismatic characters, the use of the practical effects. I honestly enjoyed this a lot more than I was expecting to.
Good.
Herman Trees has it right. Carpenter's music adds so much.
Yeah.
This movie in Maximum Overdrive, not so much, where it's got picked out songs from the 50s in this movie, and then AC/DC for Maximum Overdrive. But John Carpenter, most of his movies have his personal musical works in them, and they're very
I think that's effective, Margoot, because he makes music for the movie. So it's not like a song you listen to on the radio. It's like ambient. It's like a mix of a song and ambient track to enhance the viewing mood that he, the director, wants you to feel and think during his scenes. And that's why I think that, we lost Margoot.
We lost him last week suddenly. We'll get him back.
Regardless, I was just going to say, I agree about John Carpenter's scoring of his own movies. It's not like he makes music you would hear on the radio. It's he makes enhancing mood music for his films. And it's really effective, especially in this one. But
there is one exception to that, which is his fake Enter Sandman that he did for the credit sequence of The Mouth of Madness.
Right.
Okay, he saved some money with that.
Yeah.
Am I back?
But anyway.
You're back, Margoot. Sorry, man.
Yeah, welcome back, buddy. So
it's hour and 20 minutes or hour and 30 minutes. If you're not logged into StreamYards, it'll drop you.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay. All right. That must be new because I haven't noticed that yet. But anyway, would you like me to tell you the few things I had prepared that non-American viewers might have not picked up on as much?
Oh, please. Just
Okay.
just on the music, there's just a couple of things I
sure.
wanted to know while we're raising it, because we have to praise Carpenter's music. It's fantastic. This one is a little oddity in that, because of the nature of the story, which is so big on the kind of boomer music, which, little hint of the, hey guys, the past, it was bad. A little bit of that creeping in. I see what you're doing, Stephen King. They do rely on the old rock and roll tunes, and the writer, who I think gets kind of a hard line, Bill Phillips is the guy's name. He hasn't got much of a career beyond this. He goes into TV movies, not snubbing it, but just it didn't seem to lead to much work. So I almost wonder if John Carpenter did quite a lot of the script assisting,
Maybe.
like he did on the other movies.
Because we know Carpenter's very involved with the creation process of his movies. So possible. Yeah.
But there's a great bit with some of that 50s music, like when the person's trying to get into Christine grabbing on the car, and the music.
You keep on knocking, but you can't come in.
Yeah, I thought, oh, that's brilliant.
Richard, Dion, Belmont, all the classic stuff.
Very nicely done. I see what you did there. We
So
all enjoyed that.
we'll use that as a launching point to talk about Americana stuff. Clearly, that's 50s music. It's a 50s car, etc. And one thing you'll notice is the bully, the sort of John Travolta looking bully, does sort of look a little bit like in dress and in pose, not with the hair. Does look a little like a kind of a 50s greaser tough guy. So one of the things that, if you're not American, I don't know if you'll know this or not, but the greaser look, the slicked haired leather jacket wearing Arthur Fonzarelli, the Fonz look, is a very, very 50s bad boy tough guy look. And as Arnie is perverted and contorted into this like manifest spiteful mutant, he starts to look more like a 50s gang guy. He starts to look more like 50s. And if you're not an American, you might not pick up on that as much as an American viewer, which that look is an iconic thing that was made very popular by the show Happy Days and Arthur Fonzarelli's character, the Fonz, and a bunch of other fiction. So
The Outsiders, Rumblefish.
Yeah, exactly. So that might be something that people didn't pick up on. There's really, Chloe, upon thinking about it, like there's not a lot that I had prepared for this. Another thing is, I what I mentioned earlier about jocks and nerds, I assume it's the same way in the UK, I guess, that successful or socially good-looking, good physiognomy, athletic jock guys, it's kind of a social no-no to be friends with low-class nerds and shit. I guess it's the same in the UK, I assume.
Not as much in my experience. It might be a bit more these days, but I would imagine if it is, it might be a cultural import from American media, because we're reared on it over here.
Then that's very much an American thing. Then I guess, I don't know, but that's one of the things I thought of to talk about. I mentioned it earlier.
If I can, I think it's probably because I think you have a much stronger sports culture in America. Like, I'm assuming what I see on the TV is real, but
in a lot of ways, yeah.
So many things have done the fact that the school football team gets attention. The town will watch it. Come and watch a football team, which means that the sports team as an identity is much bigger, and we just don't have that in the UK as much. Would you agree, Harry? Am I stating that fairly?
Yeah, if I remember back to school, there wasn't so much of that. Obviously, there were sporty kids, and they were well liked among the school, but there wasn't anything remotely approaching the American high school football phenomenon that you seem to have over there, that's portrayed in media so often.
Okay, then that would be something. Then that's a touchstone. And another thing, we talked about boomers loving their classic cars earlier.
Ooh, yeah.
I don't know if that exists as much. I know that certain all across Europe and in the UK, I know there are a lot of people that love cars and trains and war machines and things like that. And I know there's hobbyists and aficionados everywhere, but it's a very common trope in America that classic cars like that, they live like a family member or a pet or some type of idealized piece of art that people anthropomorphize. That is very common in American reality and in American fiction, that the spirit of you can go into a car, or you give a car a name and it becomes like a pet or a family member, that kind of thing. So that's a really common thing in comic books and movies and TV shows going all the way back to the 50s. So that, I don't know how America specific that is, but that's definitely a thing here if it's not there too.
That's a real thing. In the 90s, I had a 1978 Monte Carlo SS. It had a Landau body, but I dropped a Super Sport plant in it. And I took care of that car. It was a sleeper car. I didn't have the money to repaint it once I fixed everything. But I could go 140 miles an hour in that car, no problem.
Nice.
Car culture is a thing, and I've been a part of it.
And the last thing about Americana I wanted to bring up is kind of a negative thing, not meaning negative isn't bad, but like a counter thing that isn't really American. Darnell, the guy who runs that sort of club car shop thing, that is nowhere near as common in America as non-Americans might think. That kind of thing probably barely exists anymore at all and was never really big in the first place.
It's
only
more
in places,
of a West Coast thing.
Yeah, only in certain places in America was that ever a thing at all. Great Lakes area around Detroit and Chicago, West Coast where there's plenty of room to just put tons of cars and parts and stuff. Outside of like Southern California, I guess maybe Detroit, Chicago. I can't think of another place where that is really a thing that people do. New York City has stuff kind of like that, but it's like more of a friends of people that you know that work at a garage will let you do that, or it's a family-owned thing and they keep their cars there and work on them together with their friends. So that kind of setup is not a typical or normal American thing that like all across America, in rural America, everybody has and knows those. So that's not really a common Americana thing of the giant car lot with a junkyard where people go and pay their dues and just work on their cars together. That's not really much of a thing outside of a small period of time in just a few places. So that's all I got for Americana stuff.
Yeah.
That did strike me as kind of cool, to be honest.
That's cool.
I'm a little jealous of that. I like the vibes. I thought that looked pretty cozy.
Cool.
Yeah,
I like it.
I like the atmosphere where you'll get your balls busted. But if you can stick up for yourself and handle it, then they'll take you in.
Yeah. That is a common American trope thing. That's still pretty common today in real life, not on media because everything's, well, you know how it is, but
safety blankets.
It's kind of a shame because you guys have totally turned me around on Arnie's journey here, because I thought there was almost a positive story there where he got a bit of identity and he was going in and humbling himself and he was just sort of gaining confidence, working himself up, and I think finding a kind of cool positive identity.
There's also
it was going so well.
Well, you're right about that, because Arnie has two arcs. He has this is going good. Arnie is getting better. He's improving himself. And then he has the villain arc, the heel arc. And so he does have two arcs. You're right to pick up on that. And I think, again, that's a credit to the writer, the director, and the actor, because Arnie plays three characters in this film. And he does it amazing. I mean, the actor that plays Arnie does three characters in this film. And they're all different. And they're all very good. Like well acted. And so, yes, he does have that arc, but then he also has the negative arc that we talked about earlier. And it in my opinion, it's better than like a Stephen King story where like it's just showing that people are negative and crappy or whatever. It shows that Arnie's darkness in him is triggered and manipulated and brought forward, where the good guys, the more masculine older men that are not, petty, spiteful mutant nerds, he's learning from them at first. They're helping him be a better man. That's a good thing. Men need to test themselves with more successful men. Like that's where brotherhood and patriarchy and all that good stuff comes from. Men need to test themselves with each other, because when an evil woman is the one that shapes a man, he becomes something terrible. And that, I think, is a good moral of the story.
Wait, a woman corrupts him. I'm on board. This film has gone up 2 burgers in the score.
And remember, I told you I would sell you on this movie.
Christine is definitely characterized in a very feminine way. Despite being a car, you can tell that she is a woman. She is very possessive. She is very jealous. She's very concerned about her appearance at all times, and she's manipulating Arnie the whole way through. So yeah, it's definitely also about that whole Christine as the woman, as the dominant woman, is jealous of his relationship with Lee. The first chance that Christine gets, she immediately tries to get rid of Lee.
Yeah.
And also she just wraps him around her little finger.
Yeah.
Christine
Christine represents the manipulative evil Jezebel, the id, the darkness, the Satan, the yin of female. Yeah.
And she kills the one positive older male role model that he has later on in the film, in that third act, when she gets back from killing Buddy and all the rest of the other bullies, and she's covered in flames and she's burnt to a crisp, and he's expecting to find Jack behind the wheel, and he opens it, and like at the next general election for the Conservatives and Reform, he finds in fact there's 0 seats being occupied.
That's a good one. That's the best one yet. That's good.
Yeah. He decides because it's still a nice car. Because to be fair, Christine, if I saw an actual Christine car, whatever the name of the car is, in that color as well, that really striking red, that's a nice car.
Yeah,
it's a gorgeous car.
Sort of like seeing that super hot girl at the bar, but it's on the inside, absolutely evil and rotten. Yeah.
Like seeing that girl at the bar,
in a car.
Yeah.
You're right. You're right, Harry. He goes in, he sees it. It's like there's this massive. Well, when he sees Christine, like she is still burnt up, isn't she?
Yeah.
She's still burnt. So it's
still
like
smoking. Actually, still smoking. Yeah,
that's true. Yeah. So and he goes. It's like you don't have to go in there. You can see the danger. You don't have to do it, but nevertheless, he gets in, and he's absolutely crushed.
Yeah,
like Reform are going to be in the upcoming election
Yep.
for shafting people.
But next to the kid who gets crushed in the alleyway, I'd say he's the second most brutal death in the film. Obviously, the other ones get blown up and Buddy gets run over and set on fire. But the idea of just being crushed slowly against the car steering wheel until you choke to death, that was brutal.
That was brutal, yeah. And also, it shows the petty jealousy. No one can come before me. There can be no other forces in your life. Like it's a very good representation of manipulative, sick female yin or female evil. And I think John Carpenter is low key very based individual, and he understands the differences between sexes, and he understands what good and evil are. I think he was a very based gentleman. I don't know how he's like now. I haven't followed anything that he said or done in 20 years. So I don't know if he's a paused idiot now, but I think that he was low key very based in his filmmaking.
Oh yeah. We'll invoke the full death of the author here, because just like last week with They Live, when we're like, John, there's an interesting film you've made here, some interesting interpretations. And he's like, whoa, I didn't mean it like that. I think he'd do the same with Christine. Like his inner baseness comes out.
Yep.
But then
the truth is inherently based.
Well, yeah. So, reality has a far right bias, some might say.
Yeah.
But I think, from my own understanding, because I know Red Letter Media have spoken about John Carpenter at length, from the discussions that they've had, they've made it sound as though John Carpenter is politically, in his personal life, probably left wing.
Yes, he is.
Well, who isn't? I mean,
liberal.
But shall we say, given that he comes from a different background to most of those producing films in Hollywood, I would say that his instincts and biases don't reflect those same instincts and biases of most filmmakers and screenwriters in Hollywood. He's not a
he's
subversive.
Very much anti-authoritarian, and even in Hollywood, up until he got past The Thing, he was very iconoclastic. They didn't want to give him a chance at big things until after The Thing.
Yeah. So,
but some revealed preference versus stated preference. If he just, this is kind of like what John Doyle said about how to make good movies: is don't set don't set out to make a good conservative movie. Don't try and set out to make a good right-wing movie.
Right.
Make a good movie.
Right.
And it will sort of have inherently positive values in it. Possibly, I'm not going to upset anyone in chat with that. You know what channel you're on. So, and John Carpenter's probably doing this. He's done an adaptation of the book. He's like, that won't work, that won't work, that won't work. We're going to do this now. And it's come out that way. But it's just when he's got to give an interview that he comes out with, very post 2016 stuff.
Well, I mean, you have to do what you have to do when you're in certain circles, and who can blame him? I certainly don't. I don't care. So this is a based film with based themes, just like the movie you covered last week. So is there anything else that comes to mind that we haven't covered yet about Christine? Because we're basically at the end of the notes of everything I had prepared to talk about.
I love the use of the Caterpillar D7.
Did you know? Oh, I'm sorry. There are two things about this from the making of that are very interesting. The bulldozer caterpillar thing. That's actually the actor that plays the male lead, Dennis. He actually went and took a training course on how to do that. That's really him operating it in the scenes. That's really him doing it.
Very impressive.
And did you know that's actually not Alexandra Paul? She has a twin sister, and as a prank for the shooting that bulldozer scene where she's up on the thing with him, that's actually Alexandra Paul's twin sister. They snuck in early that day and had makeup and wardrobe make up Alexandra Paul's twin sister as the character, and she did all the scenes that day, and they did it as a joke on John Carpenter, and he was a good sport about it and said, "Screw it, we'll leave it in the film. We're not redoing it." So that's whole scene with the caterpillar, that's not Alexandra Paul. That's her twin sister, and they left her in the movie.
There's a little bit of a Nicholas Brendan thing, Just like, we've got a handy twin. Screw it, we'll do it.
I just thought that's some cute trivia. I thought you guys might want to know.
Well, the only other thing that I wanted to say about the film was that, yes, Alexandra Paul in this film, very cute, good-looking young lady, but Dennis did twice snub the blonde girl, which I felt was unwarranted because she seemed like a nice, cute girl herself.
But was she too forward?
Perhaps.
She was a bit too forward, whereas Lee, she was a new girl. She was demure,
That's Kelly Preston, by the way.
Kelly Preston?
Yep.
Didn't she also do a Baywatch thing? That name is familiar.
No. Kelly Preston, Top Gun fame.
Oh,
Did she marry John Travolta?
Tom Cruise. Kelly Preston did marry John Travolta. Sorry. Yeah.
There we go.
It all links back to Travolta in the end, as it always does.
Everything's coming up Travolta. There's a comment from the NREAB I just want to check in up here. So just on this, because the extended deleted scene, I'm wondering, is that a reference to the fact that they... so that's when the bullies come in, climb on her smasher. Really good that they managed to get that in a nice, smooth take, by the way. I mean, I know they went through a few cars, but
they went through 28 cars. 28 Plymouth Furies were used in the creation of this movie, and they destroyed almost all of them.
Yeah, I think the lead bully almost kind of stumbles when he's jumping down onto the bonnet, and they just go with it.
Yeah,
but it was fine. It was cool.
It's natural.
I'm wondering if is that a reference, the NREAB, to the fact that they I'll go with defecate on the dashboard, even though IMDb goofs reference. Actually, guys, I looked. There was no feces smeared on the dashboard. This is an amateur filmmaking. How could they make such a mistake? I demand full HD poop.
I do not. I appreciate this being a fecal-free film.
Yes.
Yeah.
I appreciate
there are no
that.
Germans in chat.
I don't like the feces.
Oh, no. Yeah.
And I've got great sympathy for the Germans, but let's not pretend they're not a bit weird that way.
Oh, come on now. Don't be anti-German.
Let's see where I don't
had it hard enough the last 80 years.
Yeah, I don't know if you meant that. Let's see what happened to Japan as well. But no.
Yeah, true.
Oh, yeah.
There was I assume that's what you mean. In fact, there's a thing I can't be certain, the NREAB, if that's what you're referring to, but there's actually on the soundtrack, one of the tracks is forgive me, is called The Grape. It's not exactly called The Grape, But I wonder if that's a track that plays during the scene when Christine is violated. But it's an interesting one. I'd like to see it on that.
Why she goes so hard against them. It's the play on the idea of, the hell hath no fury like a woman scorned.
True. Yeah.
Because she does seemingly go out of her way to murder them in the most brutal way possible.
Yeah.
There's a few opportunities that she has later in the film to just run them over, but she goes out of her way to torment and torture them.
Yeah.
Especially when she's chasing Buddy
like a cat
very
playing with the
slowly
mouse.
down the road.
Yeah. I absolutely loved that shot. That was absolutely haunting.
It's gorgeous.
Well, since I've only got about 10 or 15 minutes left, do you want to get to the ratings and what we rate this as, or do you want to move to something else about the movie?
No, that's grand. I think we probably should, just to make sure we get all the thoughts in. But yeah, that was sort of everything I had. I think there was just one other comment I was looking for. But let's see. Was there another one from... No, I can't find it. So apologies if I didn't find your comment. But let's probably move into our sum ups now. Oh, hang on. Here we go. From the NREAB, when you see the extended deleted scene, you'll see the expressions they make as they urinate.
Yes.
Oh, this is what I called.
Yes.
Okay, guys. So before the chat, we were trying to work out which version of the film we had, because the theatrical release is considerably shorter.
Yeah.
Which and that's part of like what surprised me, because I know John Carpenter makes short films generally in this period. So I was very surprised by him making a 1 hour 50 film. And then Yiz told me that there was the theatrical release that was shorter and missed a load of stuff. And I thought with the Stephen King story, they wouldn't go full sort of one guy, one jar details on violating Christine. I kind of thought the way Stephen King would do it would be you just see someone pull their trousers down and then you get a close up on an actor gurning.
But no, in the extended scene, it is like I assume that you guys, well, we're all adults here. We know that there is a certain genre of naughty looking at material where femoids are there are dirty things done to them, and I think that John Carpenter knew that and directed them in this scene to sort of have a particular look to them and their behavior as they were doing things to this car. I think that is on purpose. That is definitely the feeling that I got as an older person watching this. I do think that was on purpose from the director.
See, I must say, to add to that, I'm glad that was cut from the film in that case. I think the film got the point across very well without having to be as gratuitous and crass as that in the final edit. And I also think the tight runtime of, I think it's about 1 hour and 50 minutes or so, 1 hour 45, works to the film's favor in the pacing to make it so that second half is really non-stop. If there was an extra 20, because I think the extras, from what I saw somebody post on Twitter, it's like an extra 20 minutes of deleted scenes. And I've not watched them, so there could be some really great stuff in there. But as a film experience, from what I've seen today, I think it works perfectly fine as a very contained unit.
Well, I think most of the movie you can get these days is the full version. So if you saw the hour 50, I think that is the full one, isn't it? Because the theatrical release was only like an hour and a half, I think.
I'm just looking up the versions. Hang on.
Because the one I have is about 2 hours long. And so if it's got like 15 or 20 minutes cut from it, that would make it like maybe an hour 35, an hour 40.
Oh, well, but perhaps I saw that version without even realizing, and even then, it's still a concise and well edited experience.
Oh yeah, it's great.
Just another thing to commend Carpenter on in that case.
Yeah,
agreed. Yeah.
So,
let's go with the roundup. So the scores are already coming in. Yiz, would you like to lead with thoughts and scores?
Certainly. You guys know that I love John Carpenter. You guys know that I love this movie. When it comes to how I rate things a mix of objectively and personally, because I don't think anyone can ever do anything truly objectively. My love for this film gives it easily a solid ghost. I rate to 11 ghosts, not to 12 burgers, because I'm weird. I give this movie a 9.5 ghosts out of 11. I think this is a fantastic film. It's one of my favorites. I've watched it dozens of times. It's incredible. I love it. It's got Americana in it. It has good, real based themes in it. It has some of the most impressive, especially for the time, practical effects I've ever seen. The acting is incredible for quote unquote nobody actors. The directing, the writing, everything came together to make this an exceptional film, a fun viewing experience with really good based messaging about truth in life. And I just love this movie. 9.5 out of 11 ghosts for me. Bam.
9.5 out of 11. That is strong. That is.
I love this
strong
movie, and I think it's a very good film, and I will defend it.
Nice. Before we go on to the next score, Chinwag. Hello, Chinwag. I like the avatar. I don't recognize you, but thank you so much for dropping £5. Much appreciated. Has anyone noticed that films from this era seem to romanticize the 50s? Could it be the nostalgia for a better time when life seemed more simple?
Yes.
That's an interesting one, Chinwag. A lot of them seem to raise it and then demonize it, almost as if they slap themselves down for feeling a little yearning. It seems to happen a lot.
Black-Pilled has a series of good videos talking about this phenomenon.
Oh, yes. Yeah. But I mean, it's very explicit in the Black Pill's videos, and you should definitely watch that. His video on Pleasantville is something I'm so jealous I couldn't have made. It's absolutely untouchable, but I will raise something like, let's go with Stephen King's It, where everything's kind of cool, and it's like, hey guys, idyllic childhood. Isn't this amazing? Just like in Stand By Me, you could get a really full cob and some lunch and meat for 2 nickels. And it's all good, and then you can bully Will Wheaton all day long. What a good time. And then, BT dubs, everyone's parents are abusive. Therefore, quick, progress, forwards. Infinity Bamalians, go, go, go. That is a kind of vibe they do. I did think David Lynch did this a bit in Blue Velvet, but I think that's been... I think I've been talked out of that a little bit. I think Lynch is more complex than that. But yeah, that's definitely
I'd say that this is more complex as well, because I would say, because of the fact that there is that external factor and also the based messaging that we've already discussed surrounding the evil car, I'd say whatever romanticism of the 1950s that this film has is not not gilded with actually everybody was evil. This film is literally saying most of everybody is actually really nice.
Yeah.
And the jock guy, who would normally be the bad guy in a Revenge of the Nerds, is a good guy who wants to stand by his friends, and it's the resentful asshole that his friend turns out to be, which is the problem.
Which is in reality often the case.
Yes, absolutely.
So, Chloe, I just wanted to ask you, I have shared the link to my next stream in the chat.
Absolutely.
And I would encourage all of you, when this stream wraps up, check out my stream series with my friend Chris called Empire of Lies. He's an Australian guy from that lives outside of London, or lives in London. And we cover about all of the empire of lies that we live in. We talk about the big lies and the little lies that we are fed from the moment we're born, and we do our best to explain them and give you hope about the future and tell you constructive things that you can do to exist in the empire of lies, primarily by understanding it. So when this is over, I invite you guys to come there. So I know that it's a little rushed, but I do need to get off here soon. And
no worries.
And get my stream started, because I already have my co-host waiting for me and a bunch of people ready for me to stream. So I do need to bounce. Normally, this is not going to be a problem, but because daylight savings time happens here a few weeks earlier than the UK, I'm missing that extra hour of buffer I usually have for this stream. But in a couple of weeks, that won't be a problem anymore.
No worries. Massively appreciate it, Ian. And thank you as ever. One of the reasons I love having you on so much, you turn up with so much research. It's fantastic. You've got those, it's great thoughts. Yeah.
Well, I love sharing. I love being here. I wish I could stay longer. Harry, great to be on stream with you finally. Nice to quote unquote meet you.
too.
It's been great. We'll definitely talk again sometime. And to
Definitely,
all
I've
of
really
you
enjoyed it.
that are listening live or on replay, please watch this movie. If you've seen it a long time ago, watch it again with what you've learned here today. I promise you'll have a good time, and it's a great film. And Chloe, again, always thank you for these streams, and thank you for inviting me to be part of it. Thank you.
Absolute pleasure, Yes. Thank you so much.
Good night, everybody. I hope to see you on my stream
Bye,
next.
Yes.
Bye, Murgoot. Bye, guys.
Cool. Right, Yes.
Yeah, good thoughts, Harry. Did you wrap up with a score?
I've not wrapped up my score yet. No,
go for it,
I'm
go for
also on somewhat strict time right now, so I'll be quick as possible. I'm going to give this a 9 burgers out of 12, but with the caveat that it does have the Harry Dean Stanton +1 modifier, meaning that overall it rounds up to a nice even 10.
Solid.
And what Yiz was saying a moment ago about the performances, I just wanted to highlight a scene that we haven't really touched on that I think was a really great performance, which was the scene where it becomes clear that Arnie has gone completely psycho on the New Year's Eve scene, I think it is, when he's got Dennis in the car with him. They're driving along drinking beers, and he begins to discuss how he's, he's going to do a toast to death to all of the people he doesn't like, which is basically everybody in the world now. And you realize that he's gone completely mad and insane. And there's wonderful use of the green lighting on the speedometer, showing that he's really speeding fast as he's getting crazier and crazier. He's sounding insane. And then also the lighting really highlights everything to make his face look really, really creepy, and you get the sensation of Dennis feeling completely powerless in that situation. Really fantastic scene. I just wanted to highlight that. But yeah, 10 out of 12 for me. And I was really surprised by that because I was not expecting to like this as much as I did.
Yeah, nice. You got me thinking about the green and how that stands in for jealousy as well, given how jealous Christine is.
Oh, yeah.
Very nice. Murgu, over to you, mate.
Okay. I'm giving it 8 burgers out of 12, a little bit of cheese, and served on a flaming bun. But yeah, I enjoyed it the second time around when I watched it this morning. I enjoyed it more than I did when I watched it Monday. And there was a lot that I didn't remember when I first watched it as a kid in the 80s, but it was well done. It's not one of the best out there, but it holds up.
We have, so we have a 9.5 out of 11. We have a 10. We have an 8 with cheese and a flaming bun. Okay, so as for me, this is one I've had my opinion turned around on. This is when you get clever guests, this happens. I had been sort of lulled into thinking, okay, it's an evil car that's dropped down what the kind of interest level. It's kind of Stephen King externalized horror. It's Stephen King tropes again. Oh, look, it's the bullies. Oh, it's the poor nerds. And the 50s was kind of great, but it was also bad guys. And I was seeing those tropes and I was thinking, okay, it's a bit standard. It's okay. It's done well. I'm liking the music. But the interpretation, the underlying themes of it, of actually Arnie's just not the great guy. That separating the arcs he's had, seeing as how it's actually quite atypical. Yeah. It's made it more complex. And I'd like to think a lot of that is probably John Carpenter bringing out the stronger elements of the stories, and with some subtleties that Yiz did a great job of highlighting that I just had not picked up. I've got to raise my score. It's not a hugely mega ambitious, super complex plot, but the way they told the story, pretty good. I'm raising it up to a solid 9. We're talking 9 burgers, a little bit of cheese, nice ketchup, wonderfully flame grilled, with a little bit of spicy sauce, and most importantly, no seats whatsoever. Zero seats.
Zero seats. That's what we like to see,
Zero
boys.
seats in the chat, boys. Zero seats in the chat. And if you haven't already done it, folks, do look at see that like button there, I need you to smack down that like button like it just told you it was going to vote reform because they're sick of Sunak. That's what I need you to do. You just pummel it.
Well, don't
Give
you
it
know
the
Labour will
pummeling
be
the like
worse?
button deserves. Oh, and we've got a late bid from the end. We have 9 burgers coming in. Yeah, all solid stuff. We're liking it. Yeah, I think it's fair. I underrated this. I'm really glad to be corrected. And also, oh gosh, thank you so much. Just coming in, Patrick Batman, £5 recommending Nefarious. Now, I have been recommended that before. I think Years told me it was worth a watch. Actually, I think a few people have said it. So that's 2 guys in a room film with a cameo at the end. I'm intrigued. If anyone's keeping track, by the way, the list of recommendations I've got that I'm going to try and work through. I'll quickly run it because I know you're on short time, Harry. It's The Resurrected, Suitable Flesh. Someone recommended Divinity from 2023, which I was intrigued in. And Nefarious is on the list. And I owe people already streams on a very special Sean Connery movie and a Vincent Price one. I think it was The Mask of Red Death. Folks, my time is very compact at the moment, and I really want to get those streams to you. April could be an interesting month. I will be doing my best. So you might get some odd streams dropped on Saturdays. But with the Blockbuster project coming out, trust me, you are not going to be starved of proper horror show antics. There is a lot coming out. Now, I'm aware that times are tight here, so I will start wrapping up now. You've got our scores for a film that I think surprised us Brits here. You need your horror homework for next week. Your horror homework, I'm glad to say, is still John Carpenter. We are next covering The Prince of Darkness. And we'll be joined by Harry's colleague Stelios, who approached me in the office.
Is this his first appearance?
Yeah, he nabbed it. He came up to me in the office and he tried to. He nabbed that. He nabbed a very interesting remake, and he tried to get Hereditary as well. But unfortunately, I had to tell him that about 5 people have tried to get that film. So. When we do the Hereditary panel, it will be big, I'm sure. Maybe I'll just get everyone in.
It will be utter chaos. I think the best reading you should get for that, you should see if you could get Sam Hyde on, because he loves Ari Aster films.
Oh dear. I'm going to treat it as No, I can imagine. He's too busy saving Ukraine. Anyway, we're bringing up Sam Hyde. It's probably time to move on. And we've done it fairly compact time together. So you have had your review of Christine. You have had rambling about the BBFC and Scream 7. And you've got your horror homework, which is Prince of Darkness by John Carpenter. I think I have an interesting take, but the rewatch, who knows? Maybe it's going to improve again. So look forward to that. Keep an eye out for the Kubrick video coming out. Kubrick Part 1 on Lotus Eaters. Support Lotus Eaters. They employ Harry. He's a Chad. And
thank you.
Thank you. Hey, no worries, man. And watch out for the Blockbuster project dropping Friday and Saturday. Parts 1 and 2 of the 7-part series. That is everything. Thank you, chat. And thanks so much, Harry and Yiz and Mergoot.
And thank you.
Thank you for having us on, as always.
It is always an absolute pleasure. All right, guys. Good stream. And chat, you guys have yourself a good Friday and a good weekend. And I will leave you all now. Thanks, y'all. Cheers.